song around here, and you know it's squat day. State management, the most essential element for lifting some heavy ass weights. I got our rig all set up. I'm going to explain it here in a little while. But I'm going to take a minute to myself. I'm going to get my head straight, listening to America's greatest songwriter, Neil Diamond. Oh yeah. Okay guys, welcome back. I'm Stuart Breeding with Studio 2, and today is speed squat and deadlift. I've only got about a minute and a half between rest sets today, so I'll be talking to you a little bit in between, but I'll be moving a little faster than I was the last time, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to start off and talk to you a little bit about my rig that I got. This is a Monster Series Lite from Rogue. It's my absolute best friend. I do all my lifting by myself, and I'm able to do that because I've got the safety bars set up. I know exactly where my safety needs to be in case I get in trouble on the bench press. And squat, deadlift, you just let go of the bar. But I've got it set up today for squats. That's a cambered bar that I'm using, and the cambered bar does a couple of different things. One, it's got a camming mechanism, so if you push up on the handles as you sit into the squat, it actually will take the center of mass of the bar and push it lower into your body, or more into the glutes. I can keep it pretty vertical and focus more on quadriceps. So literally, just with the pull, the raise or pull of those handles, I can turn it into a front squat or a back squat. I use it a lot on speed days to get out of the deep shoulder impingement that happens with the bar, because I mentioned the other day my shoulders are a pretty big issue. I like to keep them fresh. So on speed days I'll use the cambered bar a lot. I've got those bands set up 20 pounds a piece, and today on my speed day I'm going to use a weight about 65% of my projected max, and that includes the weight of the bands. And I use this little trusty gadget right here. It's a luggage scale, pretty handy. You can get them on Amazon for about 19 bucks. If you're going to use bands and chains, I really recommend you get one. I will put the band in place, pull it where I think the load is going to be. For this instance, it's sitting around the top of the bar, so I'll pull it up at the same height, measure it, and I'm a pretty big stickler on detail. So I will record that and the amount of weight, and in this case I'm using 20 pounds on each side, 40 total pounds of band. And once again, much like the chain, it is where you're basically, as you're coming up out of the lift, you're running into more and more weight. Now the other great thing that this offers you is the acceleration coming down. So today I'm working on a lot of power. I'm trying to move that bar absolutely as fast as I possibly can, both going down as controlled as possible, but as soon as I hit that stretch reflex, I'm trying to run it up out of the ground, and the idea is I'm trying to get back to a locked position before I feel the tension of those bands. And again, that's called accommodating resistance. You can do it with bands, you can do it with chains, and I'm going to do a set real quick and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so in all seriousness, warm-ups, very, very important. You will see, just like the other day, I'm starting with static stretches. I'll go through pretty much every individual body part, especially starting with hip flexors, glutes, iliotibial. I'm not showing it in here, but I'm doing a little bit of foam rolling. I'll take the stick, rub out a lot of knots, do a little SMR, self-myofascial release. So as I do those static stretches, I'm slowly warming up, and then I start to get a little bit more dynamic. I'll include some walking lunges with the stick. Once again, really trying to get in the hip flexor. Move a little bit more, get into some Belgian splits. Stretching the shoulders once again to make sure the shoulders are ready to receive that bar. And pretty sore from yesterday bench pressing. So I'll go through a lot of assorted movements, static to dynamic, and then slowly as I start to do my warm-up sets, on the actual squat, I start doing a couple of different things. I'll do a depth jump. So I am getting the nervous system primed and ready for power training. And I will do this on both my speed days and on max effort days. Step up on the bench or a plyo box, come off, hit the bottom of the stretch reflex, and really try to power yourself out of that hole. And then the second is one of my favorite things to do, which is to take a band, put it up around the knees, and take a stick across your back, or the bar, a very light weight. You don't want to be using a lot of weight on this. Move into a hip hinge and then drive those knees apart as much as possible. Sit down in the hole, count to about 3, take 3 breaths, and do about 3-4 reps. And you will get a little lightheaded on those. They're pretty intense. But warm-ups are very important. I see a lot of guys, a lot of coaches, talking about the data that comes back on stretching before, after, during, whatnot. Listen to your body, guys. That's all I'm going to say. I'm 47 years old. I'm warming up. And a lot of times it'll take me 30 minutes to warm up, to get ready and get my nervous system primed before I'm able to really start moving some heavy weights. And sometimes a little less, sometimes longer. But listen to your body. It'll tell you exactly what it is you need to get ready to start moving some heavy weights. But I really encourage you not to skip it and spend a little time afterwards doing more SMR, foam rolling, self-myofascial release, and a bit of stretching as necessary. Okay, so I'm back on the 1.5-minute countdown. I'm going really pretty fast today. Number one, I am doing 8 sets of a working weight for 3 reps at a time. When we're talking about speed, developing speed and power, the number of reps you do per set mean quite a bit. For instance, I was doing sets of 5 yesterday in my bench press and calling it kind of a power hybrid volume. And the volume was doing 5 reps instead of 3. I still am trying to get a lot more volume in my bench press, and like I said, some more hypertrophy in my shoulders. So both are appropriate, and I find that on upper body I can move 5 reps equally fast. But when we're talking about squats and deadlift, that's not quite true. For instance, I'm wearing a heart rate monitor, and when I step under that bar, I am a heart rate of about 100, 95 to 100, and I'm recovering all the way up from about, I think the last time I got out I was at 90% heart rate max. So within 3 reps, I'm going from almost resting heart rate to shy of max heart rate. So as those reps are increasing, I'm trying to keep the same amount of speed per rep, and you can almost see the weight jumping up at the top. If the 4th and 5th rep, for instance, I'm doing 5 reps, were slower than the 3rd, there's really no reason for doing them anymore. And this is why the 3 rep range for developing power, because for the most part, you're not going to quite reach max heart rate. You don't want to reach max heart rate. You want to save that for max effort day. And your 4th and 5th rep are probably not going to be as fast. So once again, it's time for me to hit a set. Be right back. Okay, so back to heart rate training for a second. I'm using it differently, but really the same way that we would use it in our HIIT classes. I'm really measuring my rest. I'm sitting here watching it on the screen, watching it come down. So I want to ensure that I'm not getting back under the bar until I'm recovered, even though I'm going pretty fast. I will also, on my max effort days, record how long it's taking me at a certain weight to recover. So if it's taking me longer and longer to recover with the same weight, then guess what? I'm beginning to overtrain, and that's a bad thing. The Russians use heart rate training very much the same way. A coach will have an athlete with a heart rate monitor, and as they approach the bar, if they see a spike in heart rate, meaning there's anxiety as the lifter is approaching the bar, they will cease the training. So the Russians absolutely believe in that there should be no elevation, no excitation, as little emotion as you can bring to the table to do the lift is what they want. They save it all for the day of the event. And I mean, you can't argue with them. I mean, they kick our ass in both weightlifting and powerlifting all the time. So there's a lot of validity there. I tend to ride that line. You guys were listening to me warm up, Neil Diamond. I got a little disco going on in the background. I really try to not get too serious. I don't break out the Rage Against the Machine and the Tool until much later on in the cycle. I want to have, you know, if 1 out of 100 is that mental grit, that ability to get in and dig and pull some shit out of your hat, you know, I want to save that for race day. I don't want to be pulling that out every single weekend. So there's a lot to both the heart rate training, emotional content, and, you know, the mental game that you bring to the table on a weekly basis. Here we go, set 4. Okay guys, so what else do we got to talk about today? I'm trying to be like the Mr. Rogers of powerlifting. It's a beautiful sport, guys. It really is. If you've never heard of it, or have glimpsed it and you have some ideas about it, I really encourage you to kind of refresh your thinking about it. Raw powerlifting has taken on a lot of popularity. It's just beautiful. You know, it's you, it's the bar, it's limited equipment. As you can see, I'm wearing a belt in my later sets, but I'm just putting it in place. I'm not tightening it all. I'm just putting it where it's going to be when it is tight, so that even on, you know, these kind of practice speed days, I'm using the equipment where it's going to be. And outside of that, you get to use wrist wraps and you know, these little guys that do provide some stability in the knees. And you can see I'm not using them today because I want all the edge once again that I can get going into my heavy days. And we'll do a whole series on equipment. I'm going to do one on supplements I'm taking. I encourage you guys to kind of write in on these videos, and I'll cover anything you want. I'll do a whole series on setting up these bands, setting up the chains, how to use them. And then lastly, I want to talk about setting up my deadlift today. So the deadlift is going to be set up. I'm going to put it in the bottom of the rack. I'll be inside the rack once again. And then I'm going to use the pins in the bottom position to put the mini bands across. I'll be using more tension on the deadlift, about 75 total pounds on that deadlift. I found just works best for me. Once again, a total weight of about 65% max of my projected deadlift. And I will do less reps on the deadlift. One, because the deadlift can be overtrained very, very quickly. Number two, it's just the reality, by the time I get to that third rep, that bar is not moving near as fast as the first or second one. So that's the setup for the deadlift. And I think that's all I'm going to cover today, because I got to get busy and get the rest of this workout done. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and here's some Neil Diamond for you. Thank you. Go!